Hello and welcome again to another video, and today we're going to be talking about experience. Now, okay, I know, a lot of information, gotta slow down, so we're going to go a little bit slower today because I think it's a very important topic. Now, before we jump in, I'm going to give you a short outline of what the video is going to talk about, and if that is what interests you, leave a like, sub to the channel, and of course leave a comment on what you'd like to see more. And if it doesn't interest you, you do the exact same things, and then you tell me what you want to see instead, right? On board? Cool. Okay, so we're gonna go over why experience is so important, why experience is the only lead in Pokémon UNITE, and then I'm gonna go and show you some patterns for farming that make you get more experience throughout a game. There's a few things to tackle in all that, so they're gonna be broken up into subpoints, but of course, nonetheless, I think every player should be interested in it, from supports and tanks to all the carry roles, so you can always learn something. I think you guys are gonna have a lot of fun. Let's get right into it. So experience, why is this so important? It's the only lead in Pokemon UNITE. There's no other way to be better or more ahead than your opponent than having more experience. It's the equivalent of buying items in other games almost. If you have more experience than your opponent, you have a lead, and the only way to get experience is by either scoring, taking down the wild Pokemon, or the neutral farm I like to call, getting objectives, or taking down enemy players, or the enemy Pokemon, right? So when you look at it like that, there's very limited sources of experience, but that's active experience. So to understand experience, we need to break it down even more. And so now that we know active experience, there's also passive experience. And that means that you're gonna get some ticking experience for every 5 seconds into the game. Every 5 seconds, your experience value updates and you get a little bit more experience. You can't evolve with this experience, so if you're an evolution Pokemon and you were level 4 turning into level 5 with this, it wouldn't work. You'd get a yellow bar indicating you were gonna get bonus if you evolved, but that doesn't actually happen that way. Regardless, moving on, the next part about that is that this passive experience and all experience, they have multipliers. There's a multiplication for experience for scoring certain amounts of points. There's multiplication of experience for taking down enemy Pokemon and Pokemon in the game when you're lowest level or low level. There's experience multipliers for taking down higher enemy Pokemon, so like Pokemon that are higher levels, and there's experience multipliers for being around players with experience share. So when we look at this in general, there's a few things to break down. So the experience multipliers, they work no matter what part of the game you are. So if you're the lowest level, you are going to get more experience. If you take down someone which is 3 levels higher than you, you're going to get the maximum amount of comeback experience from taking them down. So on and so forth. Like the other thing is that apply, or if you're scoring intervals of, I think it's 1, 2, and then every so on from that is the same. So 2 points is the most inefficient score in the game. Don't do it. You're better off, like, and even 1 point as well. Don't, if you can, you need stacks, okay, but if you don't need to, 1 and 2 scores are very bad. Don't try to do them. They don't give you any experience, really. It's not the greatest. For Unite Charge, yeah, okay, sure. But outside of that, experience-wise, you always want to be scoring 50, 30, 40. Anything above 20 is like super good, and you'll see you'll get a lot of experience. So now, moving on to the next area. Yes, okay, now that we know that experience is the only way to get ahead in Pokemon Unite, what do we need to do to prioritize experience in our games? Now, I think this is a very simple question. We need to go and look at the points in the game where you can't do much, or, like, I'm basically saying the points in the game where you're not strong. And to understand that, it applies to all characters. Supports, they're strong, like, pretty much throughout the whole game, and same thing for tanks. What you need to do is you need to define clearly what points you're actually going to be strong at and what points you're actually going to need to farm or help the team farm. Because, okay, we're going to go get Umbreon perspective here. Umbreon is weak until level 4. And when it gets level 4, it gets really powerful. So let's just say we get this, we get one more farm, maybe down here, and we're level 4. So now that we're level 4, we can just run at them directly, right? Yes, you can. You can do that, and that'll be efficient for maybe trying to get a kill and getting more experience. However, what I want you to think about, and just take a second to breathe in and take it all in, is that at this moment, you are just a supporter character in this sense. I want you to get your carry ahead, or if your carry is looking for the same play as you are, you're going to be able to alleviate the pressure on them by offering CC and protective services as a higher level Pokemon. So it comes down to the basic understanding. If you're tank and support, you need to know, okay, do my carries need levels? You forget so much about yours and you think about someone else's. And that's the fundamental change that's going to give you a lot of wins if you're playing these characters. You're going to look at your guys and say, oh, okay, they don't want to level up? Well then, yeah, maybe the game's doomed. And sometimes it is, and that's okay. We talk about it a lot in the channel. Sometimes the games are doomed, and it's about letting go of those games and trying to think and find solutions for the newer games. So, talking a bit about experience. So that's something for tanks and supports to incorporate. Think about your team's levels and how they affect your gameplay. You don't need to be so aggressive if you're extremely behind, or sometimes you need to be extremely aggressive. That's up to you to figure out which one it is. It's basically a question of, okay, my guys need to farm, my guys need to do something. And then you value, based on what's happening in the game, which one has to happen instead. And you can help them farm. That's why you take experience share. You follow them around and you soak the extra experience. You get the comeback experience if you find a kill. You protect them, and then that's a really good game. Now for carries. I guess this is when we're going to talk about firing patterns. Let's take Cinderace, right? So when you clear your first buff rotation, let's just say you go like this, right? G or C clear. It's like this, right? So when we do a C clear, we go to top lane. We're done at top lane at 845. This is going to come up at 35. So what will happen is Cinderace should come back to here, back to here, back to here, back to here, and then back to here, and then end up in mid. Now from mid, where should Cinderace go? This is about being very fluid as a jungler and like a central player. I guess I'm going to highlight the central pattern first. But afterwards, you have the choice, of course, invading. There's some idea there. But because you don't know the timers, if you're playing conservatively, you could go to top, help out with 1 or 2 minions, and then come back to here. And then it will spawn in again. Now remember, each time you do it, the jungle timer gets lower and lower. So what happens here is this timer, instead of being a regular 8:35, it's probably going to be 8:25 if you weren't there in time. Or if you were there in time and just melted it. So it might be 8:25, and then 8:20, and then 8:22, 8:18, and then 8:10. And now, well, okay, well, so this one will be 7:10. You've missed the bees. Do you see the problem? When you miss the bees, that's a lot of experience you're giving up. So maybe we have to adjust the clear. And then we have to go and say to the second clear, hey, look, I know the bees are going to be important. I want to be there. What I'm going to do is I'm going to sack these two, go take them, go down bot lane, make some pressure play, score instead of giving the bees in middle. And then when I come back to my jungle, I can literally just clear up again, go to top lane, and I'm at top lane bees. Oh, wow. You guys are seeing the fluidity and motion of like the most extreme players in the game. This is what's going to get people constantly levels ahead. Thinking about what's the next camp to clear, what timers are going to be on, and what do I need to do on the map to make the game better. You know, there's objectives. The objectives are as follows: 720, 8 minutes. There's 850 as well. Like, you know, and then from there it's 7 minutes. And then from that 7-minute mark, like, you know, it's the jungle timer should be getting counted as well. It's like, you know, just because the bees are important, but the jungle is also very, very high in experience. So central players and even old players should be aware, oh, if I'm going to take a buff, when is it going to come back? When do I need to be there? What do I need to do after? This kind of thinking gets you in a very fluid state of finding your places around the map. So let's talk a little bit about laners instead. Let's just go, I've been using top lane as a lot of analogies, so we're using a lot more bot lane today. Let's say we're taking Cramorant, right? We run Cramorant down the bottom lane, we take our farm, and then we get to level 5, the bees, we do the bees, and then now what happens? So this is probably like everyone's told you, yeah, go do the bees, and what's next? So you're going to have this farm probably spawn first, so you're going to want to go there, then it'll be theirs and yours, usually because both sides back off after the exchange. So you could go and push on theirs, but that changes the timer for yours. So it's all about understanding, okay, the timers change. What does that mean for our game? You also have to understand this time that it's like what? 840? What's the chances of you getting ganked? Because if you're not going to get ganked, you could probably push onto this if you were stronger. But if you are going to get ganked, you should completely back off. And if you're already getting ganked, what's the chances of you not being able to push up at all and having to stay in that gray zone that we talked about a few videos back? all these concepts and ideas overlap. It's all about counting the timer, knowing the experience, and knowing when and when not to fight. Because you want to be ahead. This is similar to farming in the other MOBA games, where if I was to be able to farm for 20 minutes straight, I would, because it would give you a massive advantage. But at the same time, if that would come at the cost of every little bit of map pressure and rotations that you can offer, well, then you're going to lose a lot in exchange. So when you look about farming and experience, there is a very clear weight and balance towards farming and then actually playing the video game. Because you could kill wild Pokemon all game long, and what would happen was you might not even be useful at Rayquaza. You could get picked off. Like, all this would be for nothing. You need to go and find tangible advantages in the game off your lead. If you get ahead, find the lead, and then all the little ways to do it. Farming is a very good way to find leads. As I said, with this farm, if you're the jungler and you can watch both lanes at the same time because you're quick and clever with the map, you can see when your farm is going to spawn, when theirs is, and maybe after the top gank, we can go run directly gank bottom. Maybe we know that they don't have a eject button, maybe we don't know they don't have full heal or whatever they have, and then it could be a free kill, scores, and then a jungle invade. That could be interesting, and then you'd be able to do a new pathing on the jungle farm. All of the options are in your hands as players, and everything is available as a tool to be leveraged and used. Like, as I said, if we're playing very conservatively, maybe that's not an option, and maybe we want to hyper farm, or maybe we want to open up the game. That's when we add in game speed and tempo and all the different changes to Pokemon Unite that you can apply as a player. Now, of course, those are not necessarily related to experience, but we're going to go and rein ourselves back into the main point. So what are some experience farming patterns that we can do? So you saw as a jungler, C clear, return, got to repeat the C, right? And then you're going to go mid. That's what's generally going to happen. Then you can go back into the C again, or do you want to? Instead, sometimes what I like to do is I take double boss and run. Double boss and run. You might be able to be finished here. So it's 8 o'clock, right? 8, boom. I should be done here at 7:40 if I'm lucky, or like 7:30, being honest. If you're a fast clearer, because remember this red buff isn't going to spawn. If you remember your timers, it just literally won't spawn. It won't spawn until 7:10. So instead, beat the lane, come back for the red, and then boom. Now your timers are a bit out of whack, but you're able to make a lot more interesting and impactful plays because you're leveraging the farm based on the game. Don't, be silly and then do these full clears that don't make sense because you're going to miss more experience in the map. Think about it like this. Come to here, and then now I go straight to there, come back, straight here. Now, the whole time I've been pathing, there's been efficiency everywhere. I'm getting a farm while going to somewhere else safely. I'm getting a farm while going somewhere else safely. If you do both of them, you're going to miss the safe farm in the other lane as well. So, all about enlightenment, all about finding the right and opportune balance. The same thing goes for farming in the lanes. When you have the choice of making an aggressive push, you think about, okay, in a minute, is this going to bite me? Like, okay, if this is going to spawn in a minute, and I think this is what's allowed me to play top lane very nicely, is that we're thinking about, hey, look, like what farm is going to come up first? How aggressive is it going to be for me to get? How likely is the support, jungler, whatever, to camp me off that farm? And if I have to give up everything, what's the order to give them up in? You have a lot of agency over yourself, but also over the other player. Don't forget that. You can give up certain bits of farm by forcing and making the opponent have to trade ideas. And when I say the trade ideas, this is, I guess, a very in-depth topic that maybe is a bit too complex to cover in this video, but I'll just go over it lightly. Trading ideas is, for example, I can go and pretend to suicide onto the pad. And if I was just to walk up onto the pad, let's just say it's a Cinder, is the Blastoise going to go and score? Or are they going to come back? If they come back, they've given up their idea because they found a new thing that has more value. Now, that time to come back, it can allow you to score and take one farm. Now, you might die. But now what's going to happen is that the farm on your side of the map was likely to spawn off the timer. And you have more ability to fight them. So, as I said, if we were to get these two farm appear before their side, if they're winning, that means that they're going to have to aggress right away to get the farm. Otherwise, they're going to give the losing lane more farm. As I said, a lot of in-depth, like, I mean, I would love not to be, but it's just a very, very, like, actually, one of the only parts of Pokemon Unite you really need to think about. But anyway, food for thought. I hope you all enjoyed a little bit about experience, about farming, and about getting, like, actual leads in Pokemon Unite, and how to capitalize a little bit more on finding good and accurate rotations in the game. Hope you guys learned something. Cheerio, and I'll see you guys in the next video. So don't forget to hit the like button, sub to the channel, and of course leave a comment down below if you learn anything new, or if you learn how to farm a bit faster. Alright, I'll see you guys later. Bye.